Trujillo Adobe is a registered historical landmark in the County of Riverside. However, past inaction by the county has sadly nearly destroyed the building. Currently, preservation efforts along with fundraising have been undertaken by the Spanish Town Heritage Foundation and the descendants of the Trujillo family. Question: what can the City of Riverside do to help with the restoration effort, and do you recommend a course of action?
In my opening statement, I had mentioned the importance of preserving the uniqueness of the north side, and I had mentioned the importance of preserving the oldest structure in our area, which is the Trujillo Adobe. I serve on the Cultural Heritage Board for the City of Riverside, and historic preservation is my area of expertise. I think that when it comes to the Trujillo Adobe, no matter how we got to this point now, we have to look at how we continue to go forward and how we ensure that moving forward that we protect this vital structure that tells the uniqueness that is our story. I think what it's going to take will be more comprehensive working in partnerships with the City of Riverside and the county agencies. We're fortunate that many of the former city employees that were tasked with some various historic preservation efforts from a city standpoint have now progressed onto the county, and there's definitely pathways that exist for partnership in that regard. I think that we have allowed too much of the burden to be carried by the Spanish Town Heritage Foundation, and we need to be working more comprehensively with them to ensure that we more accurately tell our story. The Trujillo Adobe is a unique window into looking into both Riverside's past, but in particular the North Side's past. And I believe it is our obligation to uphold that and to ensure that that restoration comes to fruition.
Thank you, Mr. Falcone. Now on to Mr. Gardner. The same question. Would you like me to read it again, Mr. Gardner?
No, thank you. Riverside, I think, can play an important role in helping to preserve and long-term maintain the Trujillo Adobe. There are several keys to that. One is to not approve a warehouse just on a block from it. I significantly opposed that. I did not prevail with the remainder of the council. That warehouse is now in litigation. And I believe that the argument that I made that the warehouse is not consistent with the general plan will stand up in court, and that the court will ultimately overturn the decision of the council. We are, as you all know, in the middle of preparing the North Side specific plan. That's a key to the future, not just of the Trujillo Adobe, but the North Side as a whole. If we do the North Side specific plan correctly, we will adopt a plan that encourages development that is consistent with preservation of and enjoyment of the Trujillo Adobe. Some residential, some light commercial and retail, the kinds of things that would allow the vision of the Spanish Town Heritage Foundation to come true. If we authorize warehouses there, that vision will not happen. So I think Riverside can play a key role there. I think Riverside can also help with some funding.
Thank you. Ms. Edwards?
We know that every $1 that's invested in cultural heritage brings $26 back to a community. What a return on investment. But in order to get there, it will take some political will. We cannot just let the nonprofits do all of the heavy lifting on this and other heritage and cultural landmarks in our city. In terms of a course of action, I believe that Trujillo Adobe is very important to our city, that we need to take steps to preserve it, and that it can be and is a regional tourism draw. And to get there, we'll need to work with the Trujillo family, the Spanish Town Heritage Foundation, and think about how to create a heritage circuit, not just how to promote this one important place in Riverside, but how to use it to highlight other important places in Riverside. How can we draw tourists here? And as a part of visiting the Trujillo Adobe, you're also encouraged to see Citrus State Park, to see the Harada House, and there we're enriching our whole city across all boards.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, the next question will begin with you.